If you haven't heard the news, there's a new Matrix film in development. The film is set to be written and directed by Drew Goddard, with Lana Wachowski staying on as an executive producer. I want to talk about what I would like in a new Matrix movie and why Resurrections wasn't a success. First off, I think there's a lot of potential with Drew Goddard attached. For reference, Goddard has wrote episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Lost, and Daredevil. Movie-wise, he's been involved with films such as The Martian and World War Z. Goddard has not been involved with masterpieces, but Lost does conjure similar philosophical themes to that of The Matrix. And it can be pretty hard for creatives to get involved with great project after great project. If Drew Goddard has real passion and understanding for The Matrix, we really could be onto a winner. What's promising is that Drew Goddard went to the studio with his own idea, which seems to be why a new movie is in development despite the last one's failure. This is promising because it means Goddard wasn't randomly chosen, he went to the studio because he sees a concept for the franchise, a concept that he clearly believes is interesting. In contrast, it was Warner Brothers that pestered Lana Wachowski into making a sequel, so she reluctantly made one and bashed Warner Brothers in that movie. It's clear that your creatives must be happy to be creatively involved effectively, and so far that seems true for Goddard. I think a new Matrix chapter would have to be fresh, and to not retread old ground. I love the Wachowskis' work, but Resurrections didn't have anything new to say to its detriment. I loved how bold Lana was in criticising Warner Brothers pushing for a sequel, but that wasn't exactly philosophical Matrix content. Nevertheless, I loved how meta the movie was. With sequels, Reloaded and Revolutions shared a similar problem. Once the Matrix had mapped out much of the world building, the sequels had less accessibility due to heavy exposition. The ideas presented were interesting, but the way they were presented was not entertaining. Matrix 5 must shake things up if the franchise is to thrive. Idea-wise, Neo discovering the Matrix is an excellent scenario that's suitably iconic, but a new entry should forget that element. If we follow a character discovering this once again, it will feel pretty repetitive. Forget discovering the Matrix because that's been done, but explore what can be done in the sandbox and ensure the action is stellar. It's very difficult to blend nostalgia and originality seamlessly, but I think in future, Neo and Trinity should remain key. To remove these characters from the picture would be unfortunate, but given their ages, the franchise should follow younger characters who are more able at action. Some say Resurrections suffered in bringing back more actors Lana had worked with on Sense8 than The Matrix. I actually think bringing new actors was great, but using the exact same visual team wasn't a good choice. In contrast to The Matrix, Sense8 had a very bland visual style, something that's more Netflix-esque. Utilising that visual team meant that Resurrections also looked bland, nothing like the groundbreaking visuals of The Matrix. Character-wise, there's only so many times you can rely on familiar faces before introducing new characters, and I like the character Bugs a lot in Resurrections, though she could have used more screen time. I'm not saying get rid of Neo and Trinity because they are brilliant, instead involve new and old characters working together. Give enough development to the new characters that we care for them like Neo and Trinity. That's not an impossible task, as Neo and Trinity didn't have a lot of character development in the films. The characters have a great cause driving them and a huge perception change discovering the Matrix, but they weren't complex characters. The ideas and scenarios are what we attribute to the characters, as well as their fight to bring freedom to Zion. They're very much characters that are easy to get behind, and too much depth might have got in the way of the wider ideas we associate with the movies. For the original Matrix movies, the cast underwent months of training from experienced choreographers, and it gave those films some of the most memorable action set pieces in cinema. Resurrections didn't even try imitating that original work, though unlikely they could have topped that work. People come to watch The Matrix for the actions as well as the discussions posed. The action felt very low energy in comparison to the slick beats of the prior trilogy. At the very least, when the story failed in the prior sequels, you at the least had top notch action. I'm criticizing Resurrections because I think it's a huge flaw in the movie, but I still did enjoy the experience of revisiting that world. It took me back to why I loved The Matrix, and I still think the franchise has much to offer in the right hands. Keanu Reeves is a lot older than he was during the original movies, so it's possible this caused such poor action sequences. Keanu does perform action in, say, John Wick, but those aren't as heavy as The Matrix, where there were lots of jumps and kicks. If The Matrix wasn't an action franchise, this wouldn't be an issue, but action is essential to these movies. This is why I think Neo should serve as a mentor and have a younger character become the new hero. This would keep the possibility available for excellent action set pieces, and Neo and Trinity could serve as mentors, passing on the torch. The Wachowskis did great things in the first movie and even the sequels, but I don't think they have anything new to say or any real idea on how to progress the franchise. I love their work, but I do think it's time to hand the story to a new creator. Lana will still be involved executive producing, so as long as her creative input is listened to, I don't see a problem. Unfortunately, it's clear that Warner Brothers will continue putting out Matrix movies, whether the Wachowskis are involved or not. That's just the nature of the blockbuster business. The Matrix was really where the Wachowskis struck gold, as many of our other films don't measure up. I think this is in large part due to key inspiration involved with creating The Matrix, as well as the human themes infused into the storytelling. Don't get me wrong, the virtual world has been explored since in TV shows like Upload or movies like Ready Player One, but none of these showcase the complexity infused in The Matrix. The Matrix is truly a unique and artsy film, one that remains masterful in its ideas. That trilogy, beyond its ideas, is morally and socially relevant, which makes the action flick so compelling. If the franchise was cutting edge in the 90s, the idea of a virtual world has even more applications in our current climate. Technology has become a daily part of human life for better or worse, and the franchise could really dig into some of these themes while staying true to the original vision. The themes of the system and free will are timeless, as well as the trans allegory. There's elements like cybersecurity, AI, and social media which would be applicable. Perhaps as our world becomes more integrated with technology, so too does the Matrix evolve. Instead of rebooting the program, it simply becomes more advanced, giving our characters real challenge. VFX-wise, it could find new effects to employ in action scenes, as long as the philosophical heart is strong and well told. I see many themes today that would fit into a new chapter. The Matrix is a tantalizing simulation in comparison to the oppressed dystopia of Zion, so a sequel could explore humanity, attempt to rebuild Zion, and how to live separate from the machines that have subjugated generations. Zion is visually interesting, but the potential of its world was left pretty untapped in the prior movies, likely because The Matrix is a program where there are no physical barriers. If you want to see a character do something cool, it's The Matrix you do it in. Zion just fleshes out the world and adds to the goals of our characters. A sequel could potentially see Neo's team manage to take control of the Matrix, which would open many questions of how to create a utopia, posing questions like how to create a fair and peaceful society, and whether programmers like Neo would be seen as a villain or a hero. If free will was to be restored, would life still work in a virtual world, or would Zion be rebuilt? These choices would be fertile ground to split up public opinion or cause rallies that disrupt peace. All interesting avenues to explore in a potential sequel. If this new Matrix fails, I doubt Warner Brothers would pursue a sequel given the last commercial failure. so there's a lot riding on this new movie. Balancing the act of nostalgia and innovation is difficult in even the best sequels, so the creators have an immensely difficult task ahead of them. Resurrections largely failed because it followed similar beats to the prior movies, but executed them in a worse fashion. This conjured the thought that the movie was a poor imitation of what had worked, without any fresh take. The film didn't expand upon the lore of the Matrix, which made it feel unnecessary. It didn't pose unfamiliar scenarios or questions, which made it feel like a detour. One of the highlights of the film is Lana's critique and disdain towards Warner Brothers. They clearly pestered the Wachowskis to make sequels, and this comes through in the product. This pestering, combined with a lack of new ideas, could really have been frustrating, a corporate push to continue in a very personal story for Lana and Lily. I see two sides to the argument. If the new movie is a mess, then it will be an unfortunate cash grab, but I think if it's good, it could honestly revive The Matrix. Back in the 90s, the franchise was doing groundbreaking stuff, and while others imitated the experience, they weren't the same. Many sci-fi movies have typical elements like robots or AI, but The Matrix's simulated world felt fresh. You had human actors within the world with great performances, and you had to remind yourself that they were essentially computer programs policing rebellion. The ideas are all there without pushing the allegory in your face. This is one of the many reasons the franchise is so rewatchable. With repeated viewings, you can appreciate what was being told if you didn't originally pick up on it. The movie doesn't spell out its themes to cater for an audience. Even if you have no interest in these themes, you can just delight in a good story with excellent action. For some, The Matrix is an intelligent work of art, and for others, it's a competent action story. You take from the film what you enjoy, but there's no denying its high quality. Visually, The Matrix's green colouring and involving cinematography is timeless. The green colour grading made the world of The Matrix so distinct and alien. A simulation where everything's just slightly off. Whereas in Resurrections, The Matrix looks perfectly normal, nothing pops out of the ordinary. This means that on a pretty high budget, the film feels relatively cheap. Going back to those original movies is a treat because they feel like nothing else of the time. A stylistic live-action adventure inspired by anime and comics. For those original films, the Wachowskis really had their heart at the centre. Now, I'm saying all the things I love about the originals, but at the same time, if a franchise bathes in nostalgia without adding anything new, the franchise stagnates. This is something that a lot of franchises struggle with as they attempt to stay relevant. Franchise fatigue is a huge issue as studios rely on nostalgia for prior hits, churning out endless sequels that feel stale. I'd really hope this doesn't happen to The Matrix. If, in the worst case scenario, a sequel doesn't prove a success, it wouldn't be the end of the world. The Matrix could explore a medium like animation that's cheaper. An animated venture would be a great idea. There would be no barrier to visual imagery or complex action, and the Wachowskis did previously explore animation in the Animatrix. I don't think a prequel would be a healthy idea as the franchise attempts to move forwards, but there's still much unexplained, such as the Matrix's origins itself. There's huge potential to explore as long as this was explained satisfyingly without removing the mystery of the world. Sometimes the unknown can make a franchise feel more believable, so maybe this is a bad idea. I'm not sure. I admit I'm not a storyteller or screenwriter, I just have a passion for pop culture. But I wanted to make clear that I don't think the franchise is on its legs. The Matrix has a lot to offer in the right hands. I'm very intrigued by the potential of another movie, and I hope that it lives up to my expectations. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and joining Patreon.